All right, today is March 23, 2018. This is the meeting of the Kubernetes CSI implementation group. Let's get started. First up are PRs that need attention. We have Liveness Probe with HostPath plugin. Last that we left off here, Sergey was looking at pushing back on an alternative proposal on the Kubernetes side of things. Sergey, any update on this one?
Yeah, right. So I had a discussion with Tim, and basically he convinced me that changing the API wasn't the right approach. So I reworked the Liveness Probe to be basically based on his proposal. And his proposal was to make it as a kind of a web server running as a sidecar. And then plugin would be configured with the Liveness Probe to send HTTP GET requests towards that web server. And when the web server gets the health request from the plugin, then it would run CSI probe API call, get the reply back, and then respond to the plugin with the 200 or not okay. So basically, in fact, it's like using sidecar to check state of itself.
So sorry, how is this different than what you had originally? Because originally you had a sidecar container too, right?
Right, but you see, with Liveness Probe, on detection of the failure, it can only kill itself.
Right.
So now the sidecar container doesn't run Kubernetes Liveness Probe. It just runs the web server.
Okay.
And then the plugin, it has a Liveness Probe configured to do HTTP GET.
Okay.
And HTTP GET goes to the sidecar web server. And it runs the CSI probe call on its behalf.
The sidecar web server is a separate container, right?
Correct. If you go to the Liveness Probe repo, I posted the complete example. It will be easier.
Okay.
And I tested it, and it's working fine.
Nice.
It's in the README. It should be right in the README. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So here you see the first portion. It's the HostPath driver.
Yep.
Now it defines the port used to get health information.
Okay.
9808. And then if you scroll down, the sidecar, you see the Liveness Probe.
Yep.
That's what replies to a request on port 9808 with information whether the plugin is alive or not. And then plugin container can actually kill itself. So
interesting.
That is tricky.
Yeah, it's tricky, but that's the only way they agreed. Basically, they refused to do the API change, which
so
is
the trick here is that the Liveness probe is still probing the primary plugin container. The plugin container itself doesn't have any logic to answer this request, but since the network namespace is shared between containers, the sidecar container can actually serve the request.
correct.
Oh, man. Nice.
So it's a little bit convoluted, but it's working really well.
Can
Very
you repeat
nice.
the last part, Saad? The sidecar container can do what now?
The sidecar container and the primary container, since they're part of the same pod, share the same pod namespace, and they can interact with each other on localhost. And the sidecar container is the one that is actually going to be serving the request that the probe is probing for instead of the primary container. Since their network namespace is shared, as far as the external person is concerned, they can't tell that it's actually being served by a different container.
Okay. I guess I was a little bit. I thought that's what I thought that's what we were doing before, but
no. What we were doing before was both the Liveness probe and everything was on the sidecar container.
Oh, okay. Everything being not the driver.
Sorry, no, except for the driver. So the driver had its own thing, but it had no Liveness Probe on it. And we had a sidecar container that the Liveness Probe connected to, and then the sidecar container would probe into the driver. And now the difference.
Let's see.
Okay, cool. This looks good. So we'll go ahead and mark that green. If I can go back to my other tab. Thanks for that, Sergey.
Yeah, sure, it was fun.
Yeah, that's really cool. Next up is updating the Kubernetes 1.10 docs. Last we left off, there was a request to review it. Felipe said he was ready. What is the current status of this?
So Luis has reviewed it and merged it actually. So
cool.
I guess we are good there. What's left is the testing section of the documentation, with which I'm struggling because I did not manage to set up a Kubernetes 1.10 cluster to test out, for example, one of the drivers and then use the test tools and steps described there. So I would either like some help setting up a 1.10 cluster or reviewing the testing section. Both are okay for me.
If use the GCE cluster with the document created by the SIG storage team, that's what I use, and it I can set up a 1.10 or 1.11 cluster pretty easily.
But you do have a GCE account, right?
Yeah, but they for free they give you $300 credit. So I've used mine. I still have $140 left, and I've started using it in November.
I guess my demo time for GCE is already over. I'm almost sure. I think it's limited, right? The time.
Yes.
So
yes,
for 1 year.
Yeah.
For mine is over already, so
okay.
I don't have that anymore. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if David's on the line, but I can ask if David can run through the test section and review it. And then if there's any feedback, he can ping you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not the right person to ping about the well.
Great.
Yeah, maybe I don't know who work on the testing tools. I remember some tasks from Luis and.
Yeah, just guess you can send this to me because I still have access to GCE and I can take care of this.
Okay, awesome.
I don't know what exactly needs to be done. Yeah, maybe we take it offline. We'll take it offline and we can figure out what to do.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Next up is the pulls that were remaining outstanding in external provisioner. Looks like there's still a few here. I don't think this is super critical.
I'm going to take care of this next week.
Okay.
I'll start reviewing things like that.
Cool. And I imagine same thing is true for the driver side. Yep, that's no worries. Bugs. This is the important stuff. So, we were talking about this in the last meeting. Apparently, there's a special step that you need to do to enable shared mount propagation on certain operating systems. The to-do here was to add Kubernetes mount propagation docs. I opened a bug to do that, but I believe Jan has been out sick for this last week. We wish him well. In the meantime, is there anybody else interested in picking this up? It would require creating a PR against the Kubernetes website to update the documentation, similar to the documentation that Portworx has to say if you're going to use shared mount propagation or bidirectional mount propagation, here's how you do it.
Do you have the information? I could do it.
Yeah, so the information is pretty much what Portworx has.
Okay.
And then it would be in this repository, Kubernetes/website.
Right.
And the exact page is listed in the bug, along with information about what to update.
Oh, okay. So that's already a PR there.
This is not a PR. This is just an issue saying this is what needs to be updated.
Yeah, I made an issue. Okay, yeah, you can put me down for that.
Awesome. Oh, sorry, not Luis. Everything's going Luis. All right. So that's part one of that. Once that's been updated, we should update the Kubernetes side of, or sorry, the CSI side of the documentation to link to that and mention, hey, if you are using, make sure that you enable these things. Vlad, is that okay to put you on that too?
Yeah. What's just because I've been kind of out of it a little bit. What's the time frame to get this done? Are we still shooting?
So the release is coming out on Monday. So ideally as soon as possible, but realistically, this is an edge enough case, or it's not super critical. So basically, anytime next week would be okay too.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I should be able to get on that.
Cool.
Probably Monday.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you, Vlad.
Sure.
Next up is the CSI volume plugin provisioner and attacher should not ignore secrets. So again, I think this is stuff that's been assigned to Jan, but Jan is out sick. So we have to wait for him to rebase this PR once he gets back.
I thought we took care of that already.
We did. The PRs were out, so some of them have been merged, some of them have not. The ones that are outstanding are waiting on him. Fortunately, this is not a huge deal. It just means that we're delaying the error case a little bit. So this can go in next week. That's okay. The one that I'm more concerned about is this one, the V1 Beta 1. Looks like the attacher did not get updated to move from alpha to beta. And that is critical. So I pinged Jan on this. He is unable to work on it because he's out sick. And I believe Sergey volunteered on the Slack group to pick it up. Sergey, have you had a chance to get any progress on this?
Yeah, it's merged.
Oh, man, you are awesome. I did not even get a chance to look at it. Could you link the PR?
Yeah, it's basically it's 40.
Okay.
Number 40.
Oh, yep, there it is. Cool.
Oh yeah, that was huge. I needed that. Couldn't do E2E test without that.
And has anybody verified that it's working now?
Oh yeah, that's how E2E tests run now.
Sweet. All right, you guys are awesome. Thanks, Sergey. Okay, next up was the connection timeout issue brought up by Chris. And the issue here is that the external provisioner has very tight timeouts. I think they're like 5 or 10 seconds. So the proposal is two parts. One is to consider, actually there's two issues. One is the timeout is too short. So the proposal is to possibly split up the timeout into two different timeouts. One that is used to did I mention it? I believe what I was proposing was breaking it into two timeouts, one for the operation, which would be for long operations, and one that was for short operations. That's what the external attacher does. That should be fairly straightforward. So for something like get plugin name or get plugin info, that should be like a 5 second or 1 second timeout. For something like create volume, that should be a 60-second timeout or longer. And the second part of this is the names that are currently generated by the external provisioner every time you do it does a create volume is random. The problem with that is that if it generates volume and the operation times out at, let's say, 10 seconds and the volume is created at 15 seconds, when the operation is retried, a new volume is created and now you have an orphan volume. So in order to fix that, what I'm proposing is the generated names are deterministically generated based on the PVC namespace and name. There's a similar proposal on the Kubernetes side to do this for the RBD volume plugin. I think it's a good idea because it would allow idempotency. So if we time out for whatever reason and we come back and retry, it tries to generate a volume with the same exact name. And if the volume plugin implements idempotency correctly, you should get the same volume back.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but what if, let's say, you retry and the plugin is still trying to create that volume? So I guess you should have like a operation in progress back response.
So as far as CSI is concerned, it will it's a blocking call. So it should block until it's ready, or there's a timeout that occurs. So
okay.
we need to make the timeout long enough, and then we need to make sure we have retries after timeouts, maybe with exponential backoff. And so that I think we should do. I think this is enough work to punt this to next quarter as like a proper work item to improve the external provisioner instead of trying to hack together a solution. Thoughts?
It would be great too to have 3 issues, sounds like, spawn from this one.
Yeah.
Because if not, it could be hard to follow. It would just be more concrete on having the exact issues and what needs to be done. That way, somebody from either us or somebody from outside this team can actually execute it.
So one was fix timeout. Second was
idempotency.
Make names item by. And then what was 3?
I think 1 has 2 of them.
Okay. Yeah, let's just keep those together because it's timeouts.
Okay. Also, I added a issue to the external provisioner yesterday, and which could cause flakiness in our testing and E2E testing, which actually it did for me. I was able to produce it.
What's causing flakiness?
So you can go see it. It's an issue. Let's see. There you go. That one. So one of the things is that when it starts up the provisioner, it kind of tries to connect and it just gives up forever. It's like I couldn't connect, and then that's it. The only way to connect again is to restart the entire pod, and that's really bad. So this thing should always keep trying to connect. You know, like
which component is that?
What's that?
Louis, which component is that?
It should be any Sidecar container should not stop trying to connect, because its whole goal is to continue trying to connect and manage it. So right now, this external provisioner gives up in about like 5 seconds or 1 second. It's really fast, and if it doesn't connect, it just stops completely. So
I also noticed that when I was playing with the Liveness Probe, basically all the components, when the plugin goes away, they don't really re-establish connection to the plugin.
Yeah,
well,
I think bad. Yeah, it's just bad. I think only device register retries. So we have to just make sure that everybody does.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because now we're talking. We want the external provisioners. We want the external component to basically ping the drivers. That's what we're talking about.
Just connect. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, if it's not just connect, it's just if the driver goes away.
Yeah.
What you're saying is they need to figure out a way to know that happened, right? Huh?
If it goes away, it goes away. The next RPC call will fail, right. And then they will disconnect, and then they will go back to the beginning of their state machine, which should go back to trying to connect. That's all I'm saying.
Or they could use a probe call to see if the driver is alive, like periodically.
Right. Or you could do that.
Yeah, I mean, to do that, you have to connect.
Wait, why do we need to do any of that, right? Like, as far as these controllers are concerned, they don't necessarily need to always maintain a connection, right? They only need to maintain a connection when a request comes in.
That's fine too. But
so it sounds like they're just giving up when they're not able to connect, period.
Yeah, so like the way I see it is the controller, in this case, the external provisioner is sitting there and monitoring the Kubernetes API. When it has no work to do based on the Kubernetes API, it should not have a connection open.
Okay.
Right.
When it sees that there is a PVC that belongs to it that it needs to do something for, it should then open the connection and do everything in its power to make sure that that volume gets created. If the call times out, then it should do exponential back off and retry. But keep doing it as long as the Kubernetes object exists. If the Kubernetes object gets deleted, then it can give up and do whatever it needs to do.
Right.
Clean up.
And that is a per request attempt.
Yeah, I like that. We just have to make sure that all clients have that.
Yeah.
Right. And it sounds like this is related to the earlier issue.
Oh, this was just on startup. Like as soon as the pod came up, the external provisioner container came up faster than the HostPath one did. So it tried to connect immediately and it couldn't, and it just gave up.
Yeah, what I'm saying is I think they're kind of related to what the issue that Chris had brought up.
Yeah.
It sounds like in general we need better connection retries. And
I agree. Yeah, agreed.
So let's put this as a to-do for next quarter.
Yep.
And we'll kind of break this into multiple tasks and assign it out for next quarter, which is probably, I'm thinking we'll take next week or probably the week after to get started on, probably the week after we'll do some planning for next quarter.
Okay.
Okay, so that is completed. Miscellaneous updates. The drivers, Travis is good. Thank you to Luis for that. New home for our Cinder driver. This is an update from Xing. Xing, do you want to add anything here?
Yeah, so well, basically we have this driver under this location, and it's already updated to 0.2.0. I haven't validated it, but it's already updated.
Okay. Do you know what the status of it is? Is it working?
It should be working. Yeah, I mean myself, I haven't got a setup to test this, but it's already should already be working. Yeah.
Awesome. And second question is on the CSI documentation page where we have a list of drivers. Is this linked?
Oh, okay. I think that that should be updated. Yeah, I can update that one. So that should not be the sample driver anymore. It should be
we should just
the production driver.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
I can update that and link to this location.
So that would be this item down here. After NFS is, so actually you go ahead and update the link.
Okay.
And then, Luis, you already have a task to remove the driver from the driver repo. So I guess we can go ahead and do that now.
Oh yeah, that's for next quarter.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine too.
We're gonna start hacking away with machete.
Yep. That sounds good to me. And then on the NFS side, is Wamin or Brad or anybody from that team available? Nope. Okay, we'll have to follow up with them offline. And then Flex volume, any updates on that?
No, Brad. Yeah. I'm meeting with my. It's okay.
Okay. We'll
Somebody's mic is open.
No, I saw you by the.
I can mute people.
It's Xing, is that? Here we go.
Oh, there we go. Blog post for CSI 2 beta. I am still working on this. I'm going to try to get it out over the weekend. Draft is due by next week. And then I believe the subsequent week it's going to go live. So this is still a work in progress. Keep an eye out for it. I think the drivers are good except for the Flex Volume one. We'll get an update from Chakri and then iSCSI from Chakri as well. Permanent home for Cinder, we have. Permanent home for NFS is still waiting. And then moving out the drivers from the driver repo, we'll work on that next quarter. And then, Luis, you have some updates on the AWS side here.
Yes, I was able to get some feedback from, it looks like SIG AWS, and they're actually trying to determine that themselves. So they'll get back to us. So we did get a contact, so that's good. So there's a channel at least for us to get information.
Yep.
But we'll get more information coming.
Cool. Thanks, Luis.
Yeah, no problem.
Cutting the components. I would like to wait on cutting the components until we have our remaining bugs resolved. We agreed that the connection timeout issue we're going to punt to next quarter, but the beta, V1 beta 1, we should, oh, this one's already green, so we're good there. These two, I would like to see go green before we cut the beta. Well, actually, this doesn't depend. This is all documentation, so it's not a blocker. So the only blocker is this PR that Jan has been working on. And that would be on the external attacher side. We could cut without this. Does somebody want to take over this PR and just rebase it and resubmit it?
Maybe let's wait till Monday if you guys better.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that. So actually, Monday I am going to be out of office traveling. So Luis, could you run the meeting on Monday?
Yeah, you got it.
And then we'll just need to make a call on Monday about whether these releases should be cut or not. I think if by Monday we don't have this bug fixed, I'm okay going forward with the release and just putting this in the next release since it's not critical, the secret stuff.
Yeah.
And then other than that, it would just be a matter of seeing what other open items, new bugs have arrived, which I don't anticipate any new ones. Okay, then from the documentation perspective, we're green thanks to Felipe for all his work there. Felipe, are you still working on the how to create a CSI driver at all, or?
No. So we more or less concluded that what we have there already gives enough pointers to develop one. You can take a look at the examples, and then you have everything for the deployment. So maybe we could reorganize, think about reorganizing the content we have, make it more tutorial-like, but in my opinion, we have what we need.
Okay. That's
Agreed.
good to me. And from the testing and continuous integration side of things, enabling the test is the biggest outstanding item on the Kubernetes side. I believe, Luis, you sent out a PR to do so.
Yes.
Did that get merged?
I'm checking right now. 1 second.
Okay. And can you post that PR in here?
Sure. Let's see. It is not merged.
Okay. But do you know what it's blocked on?
Let's see. You gave it a thumbs up, and that's it. It's just new changes are detected. LGTM label has been removed.
Okay, I'll re-add that if you paste it in here.
Yeah, it's just a flaky thing that I added.
Yeah.
Okay, let me add the link.
All right, while you do that, we'll finish up the rest here. I think we're green on the testing of the external components. The CSI sanity stuff is looking good. Next step is updating the drivers to take advantage of CSI sanity. I don't believe any of those are a blocker for 0.2 external components to be cut, so that's fine.
And HostPath already uses CSI sanity. So.
Cool. Let me... Okay, I'll come back and take a look at that afterwards. So you were saying HostPath is already green.
Yep.
And I think David's working on the GCPD one, and then Chakri is working on Flex and iSCSI. We'll get an update from Chakri hopefully soon. All right, that's it from my end. I will see you all on Wednesday, and then I guess Luis will run the meeting on Monday.
You got it, guys.
I have a quick question for Luis. So should I just submit a PR to change drivers.html file? Is that the process for?
It's if you actually Saad, could you open up the doctor repo? So the way it works is that there is actually no the repo itself. Yeah, so on the docs. No, not that one.
That's not the one.
Yeah. Docs. Yeah. So the way it works, Jing, is that down here, the instructions, I use a tool called MDBook. You can download it, and then you go into the I think it's called one of the directories, the docs directory. I think it is.
Okay. Yeah, docs.
And the book directory, see, has the output. You don't have to touch any of this. This is all done generated.
Generated? Okay.
Yeah. You go into the book directory, and you go in there and you edit what you need to do.
Okay.
And then you go to the previous, exactly, the drivers, and here's just a markdown file, right?
Yeah.
You go to the previous directory, and one more. And then here she's a book to, that is an instruction to the empty book tool. What to do. So you just run empty book build, and that's it. And you submit.
Okay. All right. I will play with this.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, guys.
All right, folks. Take care.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.